Now, David, you were in the White House when the president essentially decided, despite where so many in your base wanted you guys to go prosecute somebody, hold somebody criminally responsible, even some saying, you got to go get the vice president. You think President Obama did the right thing in not allowing the Justice Department to investigate to see if we have rogue agents, perhaps, that went above and beyond?
The Justice Department did look into it, Chuck, but I think he did the right thing in rejecting what was the major call, which was for a commission that would go back and essentially, accentuate the roles of every player. And we've had a big national airing of this. His view, as he expressed the other day, was that we have to move forward and learn from this. But let me just comment on Brennan, because I watched that press conference that you were at, Andrea, very, very closely. And what I heard, the vice president invited us to talk to the former directors. He said abhorrent things were done. He said the CIA was unprepared to run such a program. And he said at the end of the press conference that he strongly believed that this was, on balance, not a good program for the country, because it violated our relationships, it spoiled our relationships overseas with our allies, and the efficacy of the data, of the intelligence we got, was in question. In fact, one of the points that we apparently derived from some of these coerced was that the war in Iraq, that there was a link between Saddam Hussein and al-Qaeda, which was one of the pretexts for going into this war. There is not, he did not back up the vice president's points here.
Helene, obviously there are a lot of people, Vice President brought it up, I've even had some Democrats who are supportive of the report have brought this up, saying releasing this has put America's intelligence capabilities, has sort of shackled them a little bit. Are you getting that sense from people you talk to on your beat?
Not so much that. It's much more of sort of when you look, I mean, David touched on this just now when you talk about the reaction around the world. There's a lot of chatter right now about, the United States trying to have things both ways. And there's this belief that we're, at the same time that you saw former Vice President Cheney sitting here and saying again and again that this wasn't torture. Just because, we're going to, for instance, in China, there was a whole, this has been a huge case, the reporting in China has been huge all week, looking at the United States, talking to us about human rights and, lecturing us on this, that, and the other, and look at what they're doing, within the United States. And,
we're also the only country that would, but we're the only country that would
actually release it.
That would air a debate like this. This is what makes America America.
It really is.
Right, for better, for worse.
It's one thing to release the report. It's another thing to release those graphic details, those very vivid descriptions, which I do think will have implications for American fighting men and women overseas in the battlefield, to provide that fodder for our enemies.
So here's the question, Dan. Is it the release of that information that endangers those troops, or was it the practices that endangered them? I mean, what the vice president seems to be saying is we did bad things in dark places, but what's wrong is that we told people about it.
We did
and
bad
I just totally reject that.
We did things in dark places that result in us disrupting mass casualty terror attacks. That part is indisputable. All that Brennan said is, we're not sure if other things would have worked.
We've not had these tactics for 6 years, so we haven't had a major attack in 6 years.
We've been using drones to blow up terror operatives and their families at picnics and weddings.
So you're not going to answer that question. Why haven't
I'm answering the question.
David and Dan, the good news is you guys provided a segue to our next segment.